Hello, welcome back to my channel and this little corner of the internet. Thank you for clicking on this video. I'm Emily and I live with my husband and our dog, and more recently our two babies who are 2 months old on Tuesday, which is just crazy. I've been making some videos about life with twins, some daily vlogging adventures as well. If you enjoy watching or want to stick around and find out some more about what we get up to, then please do subscribe and like if you like it. Click the notification bell so you get told when I've uploaded a video, which I generally try and do on a Sunday, but you know, life with twins, things get busy, so yeah. Today I wanted to talk about breastfeeding because I feel like I've got a lot to say about breastfeeding. I've learned a lot over these last 2 months, specifically breastfeeding twins. So if that's something that you want to hear about, then keep watching. So before I had the babies, I was very much of the opinion, well, I'll give breastfeeding a go. I know breastfeeding can be really difficult and there are 2 babies to feed, so I didn't put pressure on myself to definitely want to feed. I thought even if I just give it a go. I say that now, maybe deep down if I hadn't been able to breastfeed them I'd find that really hard. I guess the journey begins during my pregnancy, because I got quite sore nipples early on. I've always struggled with eczema and I think it might have been related to that. But the midwife suggested that I try using breast shells, which I've got here, and these can stop like fabric and clothing from touching and irritating your nipples, and it just means that there's like air to them, so they look like this. So you put that on, it's got a little hole at the top because you're supposed to wear these when you are feeding. You can use them to collect your letdown or during the day as an alternative to breast pads, but she suggested that I use this to try and like help them, which I did. But then I started to notice that I was collecting colostrum. Now this must have been, oh, I don't know how many weeks, but it was in my in the 20s, so quite early on really. So, and I know that if you start collecting colostrum that can bring on labour, so I started to wear these and then we were like, oh, don't know if I should be doing that, we don't want to start anything this early, so I stopped using those. But by the time 36 weeks came, I then started to harvest the colostrum. I've got my notebook here with all the notes in there, so apologies if I'm looking down. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. I waited till 36 weeks because that's when it was safe to do so. Ideally, I wanted to bring on labour naturally, and this was another method that you can do that. So if you're overdue, you can start harvesting colostrum, and that's just hand expressing into a syringe. I was harvesting about twice a day, and I was collecting between 1 ml and 2.5 ml. It didn't bring on labour. We still delivered them at 38 weeks, but I do think that the fact that I was quite on it with the harvesting has meant that my breastfeeding journey has been a little bit easier. I don't know, but that's something that is possible. Then I had a freezer full of these syringes, which I then took into hospital with me, which was really, really good because actually both babies had colostrum from these syringes. Percy because his blood sugar levels were low, and then Eden because she needed to go to neonatal for just a little bit because of her jaundice. I had a pot of syringes which family brought in for us when we were in hospital. We just kept them in a cool bag, and then the hospital have got fridges, and as long as it's all named you can keep things like that in the fridges. So the harvesting sort of started off the breastfeeding journey. Then when the babies were born, Percy was still in neonatal just for a little bit of help with his breathing, but then I had Eden with me and we got her feeding pretty quickly. She latched okay, but because of her big tongue, which I've talked about before, she did find it a little bit tricky, and I remember her clicking when she ate, so I just have to adjust her mouth position and just make sure that she was really on properly, but otherwise she latched on okay. And then as soon as Percy came to me, we got him feeding as well. So they're both fed within the hour or to 2 hours after they were born. When we were in hospital, I fed them every 2 to 3 hours, and I generally tandem fed them. I just put pillows all around me, which is what I do now, just to prop them up and have their legs, I do it in the rugby ball position, so their legs go behind me and their heads are in front. So yeah, I fed them every 2 to 3 hours, tandem fed generally, unless one obviously woke up or wasn't satisfied. Then in hospital, Eden had to go to neonatal. So like I said, they used some syringes, but then we ran out of syringes, even though I had literally so many syringes. But then I continued to hand express colostrum into little pots, which they used, but then I was given a pump, which massively improved things. And I started to pump after feeding the babies. I was told to do 5 minutes on each breast, 4 times. It's like 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes after I'd fed the babies. And that was really good, and as I did that I could see the milk starting to change colour, which was really interesting. So it had been really thick, not bright yellow, like quite clear or like translucent yellowy gold colour, and then it started to become more yellowy, like bright yellowy, before then it turned into white milk. So I pumped, which meant that I could send some stuff down to, oh my goodness, I forgot my own daughter's name, Eden, in neonatal, which was really good. So she had some milk from me, but she was topped up with formula as well, just to keep her going while she was there. When she came back, she latched on fine, and we continued feeding as we had done. So that was in hospital, and yeah, I feel really lucky really that I could be in hospital for a few days. We had the babies on the Thursday and then went home on the Sunday, because if I had any trouble with feeding them, obviously you've got the button in your room where you can press and get some support with getting the babies on. Initially I was a bit like, oh, I don't want to press the button, but you know, that's what the midwives and support stuff are there for. And I had some really lovely relationships with the people there supporting us. So yeah, it was really lovely to get to know them, and they supported me so well looking after the twins. So yeah, so we were discharged on the Sunday, then we were home, and I continued to learn lots about feeding these babies. My milk came in, I think, like the day after we got home, like the Monday, Tuesday. I feel like I was properly milk lady. I remember getting in the shower and bending down to get something or pick something up, and then yeah, milk was just like, I could collect it in my hands as little puddles, and I was like, help James, help. But that was really good. That was a good sign that there was milk there to feed the babies. There was a lot of milk. I found that and even now, I can feel like my boobs filling up with milk, and it's all around my armpit sort of area. In the early days it was quite sore, so I would just give that like a massage. In the shower, if they were feeling really full, give them a massage. And again, I do that now just so that they're not really engorged. Obviously I want to avoid things like mastitis. I would leak in bed. I didn't realise I'd be wearing a bra and breast pads in bed, but that is definitely something that I have to do. Otherwise, yeah, there's lots of milk everywhere. Also, milk sweats are a thing. I used to get quite hot in bed anyway, but breastfeeding, again, I just wake up really, really hot and sweaty, so I sleep sort of under a sheet as the weather's getting warmer as well. So that's nice, but no one told me that. So wear a bra in bed with breast pads and you might get a bit sweaty. Generally covered in milk, in bed sometimes sweat, all day baby sick, sometimes poo, wee, you know, you get used to it. So when I feed one baby, it's amazing because your body, well, my body, I guess, because I've got 2 babies, thinks, oh, you need to feed both. So I'll feed one baby on one side, and if I haven't got a baby on the other, I still have quite a big letdown. So I've been collecting milk in a hacker. I didn't know what a hacker was until someone lent me one. I've actually got a few of these now. This is quite a small one. It looks like this. It's not the prettiest thing you've seen in the world. Hang on, there we go. So when you're feeding a baby and you've not got a baby on the other side, or if you just feel really full and you need to let down some milk. So you fold that top part down, attach that to your boob, squeeze this, and then fold that over, and then it suctions on to your boob like that, and then that collects milk into here. It's pretty clever. It's not the most attractive thing, and actually because it's a suction, if it does unsuck, it doesn't make the nicest of noises. It's not very subtle, but it does mean that you can collect milk without having to pump. I do have a pump just in case, but this has meant that I've collected a lot of milk, especially in the early days when I wasn't always tandem feeding, and I started collecting the milk and putting it into storage bags and put them in the freezer. So now I've got a little stash in the freezer, and I'd collect around 60 ml to 100 ml I think in that Letdown, which I think is around what the babies were feeding at the time. So I haven't done it recently really because I've been feeding them both together, but it's definitely something I know I could do. Say if I'm away from the babies and they have a feed and I'm feeling quite engorged, I can put the hackers on and hopefully collect some milk in a Letdown there. Generally I do tandem feed them just because it's important to keep them on the same schedule with twins, otherwise you're constantly in a cycle of feed, like change, feed, sleep, change, feed, sleep. So by the time I've fed one baby and that baby's settled, it's then time to do the other baby, and you don't really get a break in between. Because they're breastfed, generally they just take the milk anyway, especially Percy. He would just eat and eat and eat if he could. But both of them take it when the other one wakes up, and then that way we can keep them in the same cycle and the same routine. Around 2 weeks in, my nipples started to get really sore. So when the babies latched on, it would be really, really painful, and during the feed as well it would be painful. This was making it really hard to feed, and well, yeah, they still fed, but it was just really painful, and I wouldn't necessarily look forward to feeding them because I knew that it would be really painful. So I got some breast shields. Katie, bless her, James's sister, turned up nice and early one morning ready for another feed, and she helped me to get going with the breast shields. Now the breast shields I'd not really heard much about, but I knew that they could reduce milk flow because obviously the teat on a breast shield has only got like 3 or 4 holes, whereas compared to a nipple where there's lots of different holes for the milk to come out, yeah, it might reduce milk flow, which actually in my case wasn't a bad thing because I had a lot of milk, and even now still on my right side they can like take too much in and then be really gulpy with it, and be a bit overwhelmed with how much milk there is. So that was okay, and actually they latched on really well to the breast shields. The breast shields are so much easier for them, just because it's a teat that's literally there. They don't have to get their mouths around a big bit of skin or nipple, so they latched onto those really well. When I used those, it really helped my nipples to feel so much better, which was great, and made feeding much, much easier in that time. I also, before I had the shields on, we gave the babies a bottle, and again they fed from the bottles fine, but just to give my nipples a break. However, I did find that emotionally quite hard. I don't really know why, to be honest. I think not because it was a bottle, I just missed them, which is ridiculous because I'm literally with them all the time, but I felt like I hadn't had that special time with them that day. And yeah, even though it was to help me and my body feel better, your emotions are just all over the place when you've just had babies, and I wasn't really ready to let that go to somebody else. Even though I know it was really special, you know, it's special for other people to be able to feed them, and they'll have that in time, you know, the babies will be fed by other people, but it was still quite early on and I wasn't ready for that. So if someone says to you, oh, we'll just give them a bottle, and you don't want to, that's okay. You need to feel heard and supported with what you want to do. So for example, I said I want to keep going with breastfeeding, I didn't want to give them a bottle, and so Katie said, right, that's what we want to do, fine, we need to make it sustainable so that you can actually manage it, let's try the shields. So you've got to figure out things that, you know, you've got to look after yourself. It wasn't okay that I was in pain every time I was feeding, but we found a solution to stop that happening, but so that I could keep breastfeeding. So if you're someone who wants to pursue it, keep going and ask for help, and there are ways that you can yeah, keep pursuing what you want to do. And it's okay if you feel emotional and sad and happy and cross and frustrated. There's all sorts of emotions that come with it. But yeah, make sure you find the support babies need their mother to be happy and well. Also, in the early days, the babies had a bit of thrush, which we think was down to the antibiotics that I was on. I went to the walk-in centre and we got some drops for them, but it quickly cleared up really without those. We also, around this time, started to use a dummy. Now, there's lots of opinions about dummies. For us, with 2 babies, it has been a lifesaver. It really does soothe them and calm them. I just ran out of storage on my memory card, but I think we're back. You know, it's really sad to not be able to comfort one baby when you're comforting the other one. For me, I think that's the hardest thing about having twins, is that you just want to rock your baby to sleep or to settle them. But when there's 2, you don't have enough arms to do that. So having a dummy has been really helpful and has given them some comfort when I've not been able to give that to them. It helps them go to sleep, and it settles them when I'm dealing with another baby. So yes, we started using a dummy. We initially had one that helps, that stops them getting confused with the nipple, because obviously that's one concern, is that if you haven't established breastfeeding, then they can get confused with latching on. We didn't find that a problem, and we started using another dummy which doesn't fall out of their mouths, because we found that we were constantly just having to push dummies back in their mouths. But yes, they've continued to breastfeed absolutely fine having a dummy, and it's definitely something that we feel has been a positive impact on us and on the babies. I am now starting to sort of wean off the shields a little bit more. I was using the shields quite a lot just because it was very painful, but now that I feel that my nipples have got better, I want to come off them a little bit and just to try and build up that, I don't know, nipple strength again, I guess. So I use them in the night time just because it's much easier in the middle of the night when they're tired and I'm tired, because the shields are just easier for them to latch onto. But during the day we're trying more and more just to go without them, which has been fine. Initially they needed to relearn how to latch, but I feel that they're really getting there with that. And funny, because Eden was the one that struggled initially, but she's, I feel, doing better than Percy is at the moment. And he can get a bit flappy and a bit flustered, but I think that's just because he gets so hungry. So yeah, that's going well. We're going camping, which is hilarious to me, but we're going camping in August, and I wanted to be able to feed them without having to sterilise breast shields and things like that. So that is the plan at the moment. Like I've said, at home we feed them together to keep them on the same routine, same schedule. I feed them at the same time, we tandem feed, and I just put pillows around me. I do have a breastfeeding pillow, it's from Boots. It looks like this. We call it the elephant, I think, because it looks like it's got a trunk. To be honest, I don't use this when I feed. I found that these side bits didn't come round to me far enough, so I just use normal pillows, which has been absolutely fine. I'm finding tandem feeding them in public quite tricky because you have to prop them up around you, so I generally will feed them one at a time if we're in public, and then just, you can sync them back up. Still very milky, we still have to use a lot of muslins when I'm feeding them. If there's a way to not be so milky and not use so many muslins, that would be helpful. I think we get more milky when I'm using the shields because milk comes out of the shields, whereas when they're just straight onto my nipple, it's more enclosed. I don't know. The babies have put on weight really well after their feeding. At each appointment that we've had, they've put on the right amount of weight. They've stayed on their curve. Percy only lost 2% of his birth weight, which was really good. We use Huckleberry, which is an app which you can track when you fed a baby and what side they were on as well. So I changed the side that they were on from the last time they fed, just so that one boob doesn't become really lopsided if one baby takes more than the other one. They're going for much longer stretches at night as well without feeding, which is brilliant. So yeah, that's basically everything. I haven't left them yet, so that's our next little hurdle, giving them some express milk in a bottle and seeing what happens to me and my body when I'm out and about without them. So yeah, if you've got any advice on that, I would really appreciate hearing it. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If you are a breastfeeding mum or a twin breastfeeding mum, please subscribe and like if you like it. Follow me over on my Instagram, and we'll catch up again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.